snakes, an airplane. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I have a hurricane, listen to yourself, churn world serves its own needs. Dummy, serve your own needs, beat it up an ox, speak, grunt, no strength. The ladder starts to clatter with fear, fight down, high wire and a fire. Representatives have engaged in a government for hire and a combat site. Left to us are coming in a hurry with the furies breathing down your neck. Team by team reporters babble Trump, tether crop, look at that, no pain, fine, then, overflow, population common food, but it'll do, save yourself, serve yourself, world serves its own needs, listen to your heart, breathe, dummy with the rapture and the reverend and the right, you patriotic, slam, fight, bright, light, feeling, pretty sight, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world.
Good morning, I'm Aaron Brinker.
It's
We are on the brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. So the election was mixed last night.
Yeah, and I've got one of those election night hangovers, not from drinking alcohol, people, from lack of sleep, because some of those races were just so darn close.
And they're still close.
And you just want to stay up until you know for sure. And now I'm tired. Really tired.
So, San Bernardino, the city of San Bernardino looks like for mayor, now that it's not, as of, have you checked it this morning? Because as
I
of
did.
very late last night.
As of 4 a.m. in the morning, Valdivia was ahead by about 500 votes, and they won't do an update until the 9th. The
9th?
The 9th, so it's going to be a day or so.
2
couple
days.
Yeah. And that's pretty typical because now what they're looking at is absentee ballots. They're looking at the people who got the provisional ballots, and counting those takes additional time. And it's not just the ones for that race, it's for the whole county. And so they will take a few days to get everything sorted.
So it appears that the citizens of San Bernardino, in their infinite wisdom, have elected a man who is deeply, deeply corrupt.
Yeah. I have strong feelings about this. Obviously, I lost my last re-election to Valdivia.
But this isn't about you.
No. I know, but I'm saying that I feel like it's like a deja vu, right?
Right.
Because I've seen that, and he always seems to figure out a way to sort of pull out the win, but he's not a particularly good person or a good leader. He's all about himself, and he figures out ways to promote and get himself where he needs to be. I'm a person who cares about the city, and I'm concerned. But, we've survived bad people in office before, and we'll survive this as well,
Yep.
Because people speak up. I mean, this is one thing that happens. If he starts to make egregious decisions and do things, people will come.
Well, and the good news is that the charter is different.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have a strong mayor who could do a lot of stuff. Now, basically, the mayor is primarily ceremonial. They sit on a few regional committees where they have some authority. But in terms of the actual day-to-day running of the city manager is in charge. And the mayor and the council get to provide guidance through the form of passing ordinances and saying, we want to go in this direction, right? But the city manager is the one who actually does the day-to-day operational stuff. So the mayor can't go around directing staff to do this, that, and the other. That's not the mayor's job anymore.
I think he will try.
Oh, I think he'll definitely try. I mean, he's been doing that as a council person for a long time, right? And it'll be interesting to see what happens. And his whole crew of supporters got elected, too, so he'll have a new council majority, I think. I think people will pretty much line up behind him. The only one that I think that won't, the only two that I think that won't will be Fred Charette and I'm just blanking on the other guy's name, but Fred definitely. And Fred won his re-election last night.
He did.
In San Bernardino.
He did, with 52%. And so, Henry Nickel lost.
Yeah, he lost his race for assembly.
So he's still going to be on the council.
He'll still be there. It's interesting looking around at all the cities. I went to an election night party first for Colton, and Frank Navarro won the mayor of Colton overwhelmingly. And all the council people there, I think, were running unopposed and basically won their seats very easily, obviously. And so there's a lot of celebrating going on there. Colton School Board had a turnover. A good friend of ours, Pilar Tabera, seems to have lost his seat. So they'll have a new person on the Colton School Board, Bernice Sandoval. And so congratulations to her. I don't know her. Randall Siniceros won his reelection. Closer, I think, than people thought, but Israel Fuentes put up a real campaign over there.
So Fontana's is interesting to me because there was a whole group of people that were running against Aquanetta, and with so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people running, Aquanetta still got almost 58% of the vote.
She's a force of nature.
She really is.
Anyone who knows her, she's got such a great heart and such great energy.
And she's done a great job for Fontana.
Yeah, that city has really been on the rise for a long time now and has had a very stable leadership with Aquanetta and a core group of council people. They added one new guy to the council, Philip Cothran, and I know his dad, and his dad's been involved for years, and so the son has finally stepped up into politics, and it's excited to see him get on board. I know he's part of that team Aquanetta, right? They're all working together, and I love that spirit, right, that they have over there, that they're going to work together to solve the city's problems. Grand Terrace reelected Darcy McNabeau as their mayor.
Pretty handily. She got 57% of the vote.
And in the council spots, it was weird how they listed it on here. They didn't list the council spots next to the mayor's race, so you have to scroll down here to get to them. But Doug Wilson was reelected, and Jeff Allen defeated Ken Henderson, who I think had been appointed to fill out a term. And so congratulations to Jeff Allen up in Grand Terrace for winning his seat.
Susan Longville won her bid for the water board, to stay on the water board.
So that one's been kind of fascinating because you'd seen all these like snarky little stories coming out, sort of nitpicking her and attacking her.
And this is the San Bernardino San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District.
And the interesting sort of twist there was one of the people who threw their hat in, who actually came in second in the race, but wasn't even really close, was Wendy McCamick, who was a former San Bernardino council person who had been recalled a few years back. And I thought it was fascinating that she decided to jump back into politics like that. But Susan won that race handily, and I know a lot of folks were real happy about that. She's a very solid, very knowledgeable person on water issues, but there's a lot of inside baseball politics going on over at that water board. A lot of the water boards. I think that when we went through this last drought, it put a lot of stress and strain on what usually is a pretty sleepy little political position, and some of those folks were feeling the pressure and wanted to behave badly.
Well, and here's the thing: because it's a sleepy kind of position, ambitious people who can't seem to get themselves elected to the larger offices will find their way onto a water board to then be able to say they've been elected to something.
Yeah.
And then they use that position to create a buzz about themselves, and they move up.
Yes.
And so you see this on school boards sometimes.
Yep.
And you definitely see this on some city councils.
Yeah. It's a springboard to something else.
Yeah, exactly.
So we haven't really talked on the air much about this, but there are two propositions in San Bernardino, local initiatives, Measure W and Measure X, and I'm really pleased that they both passed. I was concerned because there didn't seem to be any real campaign to push them, and there was a bit of a negative campaign, particularly on X. And so one of them provided the regulatory structure for marijuana sales in the city of San Bernardino, and the other one provides the tax structure. And with both of them passing, the city now has a clearly defined way that marijuana sales will be handled in the city. They had a proposition that passed a couple years ago, but was ruled unconstitutional and thrown out by the courts. And the city had been doing it by ordinance and had been challenged in the courts on several instances. And so this basically will shut down the lawsuits and provide a clear pathway for people who want to do that. And now they have a clear set of regulations that outline how it will be done. And so in that respect, I think it's a good thing.
It looks like that the local bond issues, like the community college bond issue was passed.
Yeah, the Measure CC.
Yes.
I thought that was an interesting one. I had a lot of people kind of asking me about it because they're like, do we really need this? And I voted for it. I've seen that our community colleges are just overcrowded. We've had a lot of friends' kids and stuff have been sort of turned away or unable to get classes. And so I think there's a lot of demand there. And I didn't mind supporting that one because I know the money stays local and it helps our local kids.
So the only thing, and when we get back from the break, we'll talk about some of these statewide races before swinging back to Riverside County. The thing that strikes me the most is that that the economy is doing well because people are more optimistic about bonds, right? Yep. And we seem to have passed them all. So
we have a hard time saying no to that.
Apparently we do. So with that, it's time for a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are On the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Tom Hartman Program. I'm live right here, Monday through Friday.
Are you ready for the #1 progressive talk show host in America?
71% of people say that the information they get from their friends and family, they take more seriously than the stuff they read in the media. Only 42% of Americans think the media is the most credible source of news. And therefore, if you're informed, if you're awake, you need to be telling your friends. You need to be talking to your friends and family.
24-time New York Times bestselling author and has nearly 6.5 million listeners nationwide.
These are crimes. These are international crimes against humanity. And I would love to see somebody held to account in this administration.
Introducing Tom Hartman on KCAA Radio, weekday afternoons starting at 2.
Advanced swimming pools remind all area listeners to take a moment and recognize our men and women in uniform who are serving our country at home and overseas. Take a few moments and write a letter of encouragement to those who are separated from family for months at a time. This reminder from Advanced Swimming Pools, serving the area with pride and integrity. For expert pool services and the job done right the first time, call 760-221-4684. That's Advanced Swimming Pools, on the air because they care.
Hey Ryan, do you have any beer in the fridge?
Nah, I thought you got some.
The game starts in 5 minutes.
And you drank the last beer at midnight on Friday.
I wish there was a place that delivered beer.
Yes, I'm Captain Crafted. I'm here to bring you beer. That's Captain, C-R-A-F-T''D. Why? Because there's no E, just a D, as in deliver, because Captain Crafted delivers.
That's right, the Crafted Beer Store in Redlands is now open for business with great prices and deliveries of your favorite beer, wine, spirits, water, ice, and mixers. Did I mention their great prices? That's CRAFTDBEER store.com or Fred Crafted Beer Store on Facebook.com. Make it easy. Google Redlands Beer Delivery. Look for Crafted Beer.
Crafted Beer Store in Redlands is now open for business, and I'm here to deliver.
Hi, this is Bev from Let's Go Shopping with Bev and friends. We move to another time with the same great show each Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. Ciao.
KCAA, where every day is a great day.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are On the Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. And so we, talking about the statewide offices, of course, not surprisingly, Gavin Newsom was elected governor. And am I the only person in the world who thinks he bears an unbelievably striking resemblance to the Joker in the classic cartoons? Ooh. He does. Without makeup, he totally does.
Are you alluding to his innate evil?
No, I'm not. I'm saying he actually looks like how those drawings were done.
I know.
He really does. It's wild. Every time I see him smile, I think, oh, wow.
The Joker.
Right.
Okay. So you mentioned Gavin Newsom winning statewide. The big statewide office that I was following last night was the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and it is a nail-biter, Aaron. Marshall Tuck is currently in the lead with 3,004,000 votes, and Tony Thurmond is behind him with 2,930,000 votes, so about a 75,000 vote gap, about 1%. It's about a 1% of the vote. And it looks like it'll hold up because it's they're already at 92.9%. I don't know if they've called it for Marshall Tuck yet, but my union, the California Teachers Association, spent a ton of money and put a lot of effort in to trying to get Tony Thurmond elected. But of course, Marshall Tuck, who is pro-charter schools, had a lot of private money coming in to support him. It was the most expensive public superintendent of instruction race in like forever. And everyone was watching it very closely in the education community.
So on the California Secretary of State website, it is still listed as a close contest.
Yes.
They have not called it. And they're listing it as 92.9%. Of course, precincts reporting. Yeah, so this one is a nail-biter.
And for Lieutenant Governor, I can't say her name, but Eleni Kounalakis or something like that.
Yeah, that's not even close.
Kounalakis. I just started.
Kounalakis?
Yes, Kounalakis. You're probably much closer than I was.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm right. She's at 55.7, so
yeah.
That one's not even listed as close. So she's 55.7 to 44.3.
Yeah. Now, Insurance Commissioner was one that everyone was watching as well because they thought that perhaps we would have a no-party preference winner, but it looks as if Steve Poizner has just lost out.
Well,
again,
that's listed as a close contest.
Yeah. I'm sure they're still counting, but you know, it's already over 100,000 vote gap, and you know, I'll be interested to see if that one flips. But Poizner was leading for most of the evening, and then he'd slowly drop behind.
And then Ricardo Lara. I mean, we have a one-party state.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like I found myself voting straight ticket Republican, not because, you know, I was passionate about some of these offices, but because it's a protest to the one-party state.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And in some cases, you don't even have a Republican on there to vote for.
No.
You know?
So it looks like Alex Padilla won handily as a Secretary of State.
Yes.
And for controller, it looks like Betty Yee, which is not surprising. Attorney General
Becerra,
Javier Becerra, again, not even close. Senate, I've always been a fan of Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah.
You know, of the two, because, you know, for many, many years it was Feinstein and Boxer. And of the two, between the two of them, I really, really liked Feinstein.
Yeah.
And I have found her to be incredibly responsive to the needs of our region. So if we have a delegation of people that go out, like an Inland Action or from the Riverside Monday Morning Group, that she would meet with us.
Yeah.
She would have her analysts meet with us. She was very responsive. And then came the Kavanaugh debacle.
And she went cray-cray.
And, you know, I don't know why. Well, I mean, maybe she was... I don't know. I don't know why she did what she did. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because she really has. I mean, her politics are different than mine, but I can say that she served us well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I found myself voting for her again, but it was bittersweet.
So here's what I know happened from a lot of my friends that are diehard Republicans. They voted for neither of them. They're both Democrats in this race, and so. You know, in the past, Dianne Feinstein has had a pretty significant support from Republicans that's always kept her sort of in a high margin. And I think this race was a lot closer than people thought it would be. You know, she won 54% to 45%, about a 9% margin, almost 10%. But I think that's because the Republican vote was really, you know, low for her this time because of what happened with the hearings for Kavanaugh.
Yep.
You know? Because I think she probably would have won the seat by maybe another 1 million votes.
Because Kevin DeLeon for the Republicans he's just a bridge too far.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So let's talk about the state ballot measures. So we went a little bond happy.
We did.
And okay, and I talked about it yesterday, but before I talk about the results, I have to preface kind of set the table. I have to explain my reaction. So at the time when the governor's breaking his arm, patting himself on the back for a surplus, we have all of these underfunded and unfunded mandates and pensions, and all of the interest in all of the bonds that we have.
Yes.
And we seem to borrow like crazy. I mean, we don't have a tax problem. We don't have a revenue problem in this state. We really don't.
Problem.
We have a spending problem, and so I voted no on all of the bonds.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter because they all passed.
Yep.
So the bond to fund veterans and affordable housing passed. The bond, the proposition to amend existing housing program for mental illness, that passed.
Yes.
Now, the one that didn't pass was the bond for water projects.
The $9 billion one, but that was one that was put on the initiative on the ballot by a private group, and it was really a mishmash of projects all over the state that didn't have any sort of cohesive idea behind it, other than we want money to do water projects.
Right.
And I think it was just too big of a bite at the apple. I look at all these, and I was telling my students, as an example, most of these things are financed. These bonds are financed over 35 or 40 years, right? So my students that I teach are 12 years old. So if it's financed over 40 years, the state will pay this off when those kids are 52 years old.
Now, how did they react to that?
They were like, they were shocked. And I said, and so for the next 52 years, we're going to pay $120 million a year for this bond, and another $140 million a year for this bond, and another $400 million a year for this bond. And all that's laid out in the voter guide. And so when you start doing the math, and I said, look, if each one of these things passes, how much are we actually spending? And the kids began doing the math, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, Mr. Brinker,
Yeah.
And the kids, it's funny because their heart really went out on some of these. The kids really seemed to respond on the Children's Hospital one. They're like, yeah, we need to do that. The homeless people, the number 2, Prop 2, building housing for homeless people, mentally ill homeless people, they can't take care of themselves, Mr. Brinker. We should do something for them, And so the kids have a big heart for that stuff. But when they start doing the math and they realize just how much money it's going to be, And I wish we had an easy way to track that. I mean, I wish this is the ballot initiative we need, that they should always have the total debt load that the state has listed and how long it's going to take.
On a website.
On a website where you can go and see, how much we added last time, how much we're still paying on.
Yes.
What percentage of the budget it's taking up.
Yes.
I mean, a whole bunch of data about these bonds.
Yes. Exactly. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Because I think that, people really have no idea what our debt load actually is.
Well, and the Children's Hospital one is interesting because this is actually the third children's bond that they've passed now in the last decade. So this is the third time they've come back to the well to say, we need money for children's hospitals, And of course, it doesn't say that anywhere in the voter guide. You have to actually have some sort of institutional memory and go do a little extra research.
So this was something that Todd and I talked about, and people have been talking about this for a while. What is the state legislature doing? I mean, if every important issue is pushed out to an uninformed electorate, and there's no way that and we were specifically talking about it in terms of the measure on kidney dialysis billing, and what it costs. It's like, how in the world is the average voter? How do they have time to learn the ins and outs of medical billing and kidney dialysis units?
Yes.
And so why doesn't the legislature do the job they were elected to do, and have their ledge analysts do the research and they vote on this as a body? I mean, this is ridiculous.
And the No on 8 campaign was about as easy and simplistic as you can get. If you vote for this, people will die. You know?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? Right? So
how to take a complex issue and make it really simple.
But how to make it BS.
I know.
So
but it's fascinating to me. But when things are complicated like that, that's just another reason why people vote no. And you're right. The legislature should have handled it.
They should. There's so many of these things. I understand the bonds that they can't, but so many of these things, the legislature should have been taking care of this. Now, we'll finish this when we get back. It's time for a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We will be right back.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
NBC News Radio, I'm John Jeffries. Divided government is coming back to Washington, and that could complicate President Trump's life. Democrats regained control of the House in yesterday's midterms, and they've pledged to aggressively investigate the president and his administration. Still, the president is calling the outcome a big victory as Republicans added to their majority in the Senate. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate race in Florida looked to be settled when Democratic Senator Bill Nelson conceded to Republican Governor Rick Scott, but it might not be over yet and could be headed to a recount. Democrat Stacey Abrams isn't conceding the Georgia governor's race to Republican Secretary of State Brian Kemp. Kemp led by less than 2 percentage points early this morning. Abrams says she's waiting for every provisional and absentee ballot to be counted.
If I wasn't your first choice, or if you made no choice at all, you're going to have a chance to do a do-over.
There's been a lot of attention on the Georgia race, with Abrams looking to become the nation's first black female governor. John Jeffries, NBC News Radio.
It's time for traffic on KCAA. I'm Erin Brinker. In Corona on the 71 southbound before the 91, a stalled RV is blocking the second lane from the left. Stopped traffic is backed up from the Butterfield Branch Road, which is the California 83. In Temecula, in the 15 northbound at Rainbow Valley Boulevard, there's a traffic alert. The three left lanes are blocked by a crash. Traffic is completely stopped and backed up from Old Highway 395. South is jammed from the 215. This is a fatal crash, so it'll take a while. This has been your traffic report on KCAA. We are the stations that leave no listener behind. I'm Erin Brinker. This report is brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. This weekend, unplug. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Alvin Washington. Patchy fog this morning, then sunshine, a high of 75. Clear this evening, some late fog, low 54. Sunshine on Thursday, a fire weather watch starts. Look for a high of 78. I'm Alvin Washington, broadcasting live from the Tri-City Center at the 10 to 210 freeways. We are the trifecta of talk in Southern California. KCAA, 102.3 FM, Riverside, 106.5 FM, Redlands, and the Legacy 1050 AM, Loma Linda, San Bernardino.
Drivers, when it's time to visit the DMV, avoid the long lines and save time by calling toll-free 833-DMV-LINE. That's 833-DMV-5463.
Here at the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins, tune in Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. I'll show you how you can retire in 5 years or less, right here on KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM.
We can't be everything to everyone, or can we? The station that leaves no listener behind, KCAA.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, and FM 106.5. So, continuing on with the ballot measures, the statewide ballot measures, the bond for children's hospitals did pass. The senior property tax reduction did not pass. And when Todd and I were talking about this yesterday, and maybe when you and I were talking about it, it was like, so is this a thing where there are seniors who can afford to buy another house, but they can't afford their property taxes?
Right.
It's not a thing.
It was a giveaway. It was a transfer of wealth from young people to old people, and people saw through it and said, nah, not going to support that.
Not going to support that. Prop 6 did not pass.
So
apparently Californians like taxes.
Yeah, more than my upset about the taxes staying high on the gases is my upset that we didn't get it put into law that they would have to go to the voters in the future. Because here's the thing, they've done this to us before, right? And I think this is one of those things that absolutely should be in front of the voters. Anytime they do more transportation taxes, we should get to vote on it. They should have to make the argument to us. Not this after-the-fact stuff where they've already jacked the taxes up, and now we have to go and fight to get them lowered, right?
Yes.
And so the fact that that piece of it went down is actually more upsetting to me than not getting my taxes reduced.
The thing that strikes me, at a time when we really want people to be spending their money, is it a disincentive? And for me, it's a significant disincentive to buy like a new car because the cost of registering that car every year is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Somebody was telling me that they had an average sedan that was, a newer, like under 3 years old. It was like $500 to get the dumb thing registered.
Yeah, this state is so sclerotic in the way they do things because it's not that long ago that we actually recalled Governor Gray Davis for these exact kind of taxes, right? And so they did it to us again, and this time we're like, oh, okay, whatever, we'll take it. It's fine,
Well, those rich people who can afford new cars, they should be paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and this is a regressive tax. I mean, this is the other thing that, I get if you're a Democrat and you want to tax the rich. I get that impulse. But gas taxes, they hurt the poor worse than anybody else.
Yep.
They really do.
Well, and here's the next thing that's coming. There's still, a couple of years ago, the state of California was testing, kind of figuring out, doing some research on whether or not a per mile tax would fly in the state of California.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the next push. So we'll have high gas taxes and we'll get charged per mile because the reality is they want us out of our cars.
Yes. Yeah,
and that specifically hurts the Central Valley, the Imperial Valley, Inland Empire.
Yeah, where you have to drive longer distances.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's designed to push people into public transportation so that $1 billion train to nowhere gets used. Right?
Don't even get me started.
I know. So Riverside had some interesting races. There's a guy on the Alvord School Board over there that's been sort of a problem, I guess, and they recalled him. And we don't see a lot of recalls. His Jose Barragan, and pretty overwhelming, 67% voted for the recall, and so he's now being replaced with Lizeth Vega, and so I thought that was interesting. And county supervisor races over there, I think, went pretty much the way they expected. But the race that was interesting was the sheriff's race. And obviously, we've been running the ads here for Stan Sniff, and sadly, he lost his reelection.
But it was close, right?
Yeah, I guess. It was 36% to 31%. There was like 4 people actually running. And Chad Bianco is the new sheriff, and he got 109,000 votes. Stan Sniff only got 95,000. So
wow. So it was close-ish.
Yeah, he lost by over 15,000 votes. So, yeah, and he had actually come in second in the primary or the not primary, primary, and so I don't think this was unexpected, but I think he was hoping to close that gap and maybe pull it out, but it just didn't work out that way. And of course, the sheriff's union was supporting Chad Bianco, and we know the pool that the unions have. They have a lot of money. And people tend to listen. When the workers stand up and say, hey, that's not a good boss for us, people listen. And I say that because I'm a union member. We've made the same argument in our district before when we had superintendents that didn't work out,
Yep. So I don't know that there were any, anything that was mind-blowing, with the exception of that one, because that one to me is interesting because they bumped an incumbent. But
yeah.
I don't know that there was anything mind-blowing from Riverside County.
No, it's pretty much standard. The people you thought were going to win, won. And you're either happy about that or not. Welcome to politics,
Welcome
people.
to politics, people.
Yeah.
So, back to, I wasn't quite done with the state ballot measures.
Sorry.
The change in daylight savings time.
Ah, yes.
That one passed. So it gives the state the ability to then change, get rid of daylight savings.
Yeah.
And so now they have to figure out how they're going to do that.
It's not a done deal yet. All it did, we talked about this the other day, all this one did was actually remove from the state constitution the requirement that we switch back and forth.
Right.
Right. And it also empowers the state legislature to then select one and make us stick with that one.
So, you know what I don't know is whether there are any other states who are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure people are just sick of it. I am one of those who gets pretty significant jet lag, and you know, once my circadian rhythm is set, it's set, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been waking up at 3:30 in the morning every day.
Yeah.
Because normally we get up at 4:30, and it's frustrating.
It is.
It's frustrating. Yeah. I mean, because it messes up your sleep. It messes up my sleep.
Yeah.
So I hope that I would like to see the whole U.S. get rid of it, because frankly, I think it's stupid. So then the next one, the kidney dialysis treatment, that did not pass. Rent control on residential property, that one did not pass. The emergency ambulance on-call thing did pass.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to me. We actually got more yes on 11 mail than any of the other propositions together. Because I went through all the mail we got. We had 5 different mail pieces for yes on 11.
Were they all paid for by AMR? Because they were the main sponsor.
Yeah, I didn't even look to see. But, you know, there were several people online kind of griping about this one, saying, you know, people are so dumb. Why do they, you know, fall for this? You know, da-da-da. But, yeah, you know, you and I think we just voted straight no on all these things. But, again, I'm not surprised that these pass.
And not surprisingly, Prop 12, which was the farm animals confinement standards, that one did pass. So what it says is that I think it's by 2022 that you can't, if your chickens basically have to be free range. You can't have any animals that have been confined be part of your food supply.
Yeah, and it's probably not a bad idea in terms of reducing some of the disease spread that we've seen. You know, when they're all cramped together like that, one bird gets sick and all of them are sick, and you know it's and so the consequence of that is they load them up with all these antibiotics, and so you've got all this antibiotic resistant stuff that's being developed. And so I think having them free range is probably a healthier way to do it.
Well, and it's also, you know, how stressful would it be to be living in a tiny cage or, you know, cramped in, you know, how much cortisol is flowing through their veins and how much adrenaline is flowing through their veins. And we're eating that. I mean, you don't, and it's just from a decency standard, just from a you know, what's humane, standard, then you don't want the animals feeling tortured or whatever.
Yeah.
So
we know an egg rancher. You actually have a family member who's in the egg ranching business.
He used to have 12 chickens. One of them was a rooster, so he had 11 chickens, and he actually lost 3 through the heat this summer.
That was hard. The heat this summer was really rough on his birds, but he's got fresh eggs.
He does. Which is great because he's on a keto diet. But I'm thinking, isn't it just cheaper to go to the grocery store and get eggs?
Omelets at Monty's house. Love you, brother.
So back to Riverside County.
Yeah.
The voters are backing higher taxes in Riverside County. So
Really?
Riverside County voters in several cities appear to be approving higher taxes to maintain or improve the services they get from that city. So voters in Norco, Murrieta, and Wildomar are favoring an increase in sales taxes from 7.75% to 8.75%. And Canyon Lake, an extension to the utility tax, was up in early results, but in banning, voters are denying city officials' request to give them permission to transfer money from the utility fund to the general fund to protect the same types of services. I would reject that as well.
Yeah.
You know, like no, because all of a sudden one fund will be completely raided, and no, they're supposed to be separate. So they're among nearly 70 cities and counties in California asking for increased or extended sales or use taxes. And we talked about before that what was, you know, this article from Dan Walters in the SAC-B was that many of these taxes are to cover pension costs more than anything.
It's all bait and switch. We've been talking about this for a long time here on our show. But this is how they do it, because the voters won't vote to raise taxes just to cover the increased pension costs. Most of these people have retirements that are nowhere near as generous, and they see these public employees making 6-figure salaries and walking away with these hefty pensions, and they're like, I'm not going to pay taxes for that, you know? And so they do the bait and switch. They say, oh, we need, you know, more police, or we need more fire, or we need this.
Yeah, you're going to die.
You know, and people go, yeah, okay. And then once that new money comes in, they just shift some money out of other accounts. to cover the pension costs, and it's a game. It's a game.
So in Norco, Measure R is ahead in early results. It would increase sales tax by 1%. To 8.75%, and with the city saying the money would be used to maintain local streets, trails, facilities, equestrian amenities, and parks, and prevent additional cuts to police, fire, and emergency medical services. City manager Andy Okoro said rules requiring half-acre lots mean the property tax base is low compared with other cities, which I'm not entirely sure how that works, but okay. Murrieta wants more fire protection. So Measure T in Murrieta would pay for improved fire protection and paramedic services, keeping public areas clean and other uses, according to advocates. Murrieta's population has grown 17% since 2006, and the number of city employees has dropped, which advocates say is because of the lingering effects of the Great Recession. So basic services are an issue in Wildomar, and this is according to the Press Enterprise. In early results, Wildomar voters appear to be on their way to increasing city sales tax by 1 percentage point to potentially maintain and improve emergency response times, fix potholes, and address homelessness. And that's their Measure AA. It would essentially double the city's sales tax revenue and generate about $1.7 million per year.
Wow. So another interesting race over in the Corona, Riverside area in Corona, the city council, I don't know if you had seen the headlines, but they had 3 pastors that were running for the city council.
Oh.
And, people thought that it was like a right-wing takeover kind of a thing. Yeah.
You can be a pastor and be left-leaning.
Yes. So apparently the pastors didn't do so well last night. And a woman who is a Planned Parenthood employee is one of the leaders, a firefighter, and then I couldn't see who the other one was. But the pastors didn't do so well. So there's a lot of push over there because they thought this was some sort of,
Give me a break. So it's okay if you work for a business that murders babies for revenue, but you can't be a pastor.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to take a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
Riverside Municipal Airport would like to now honor all Americans who have served in our armed forces.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is one of America's most cherished monuments, guarded 24 hours a day by members of the Army's 3rd Infantry. Those selected for this honor receive months of special training and discipline before being given the assignment. On Veterans Day 2018, we salute veterans across America and right here at home.
This Veterans Day, the Riverside Municipal Airport salutes America's veterans, honoring all who have served. Riverside's airport itself is a Civil Air Patrol site, works with 2 universities offering aviation degree programs, tower-controlled ILS, 6 flight schools, and an A&P school. Riverside Municipal also salutes the city's own National Cemetery. To all who have served, a hearty thank you from Riverside Municipal Airport.
Rent-A-Center is lowering prices like way down. Now for $19.99 per week, you can get an Xbox One or PS4. And what better way to enjoy those consoles than on an Altoro Dune sofa with a reversible chase? Again, for $19.99 per week. $19.99. Rent-A-Center has a worry-free guarantee, free same-day delivery, and competitor price matching. Rent-A-Center located in the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, where the 10 and the 210 meet between the Alabama and Tennessee exits. Rent-A-Center, $19.99 per week. Sale price is valid until October 28th.
This is Dick from Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters has been serving the Inland Empire for over 55 years. Carpet Masters uses extraction cleaning for your carpet because there's no better cleaning to remove the soil from your carpet. All of our furniture cleaning is done by hand in your home or in our plant. Carpet Masters also offers dry cleaning for fine furniture. Call Carpet Masters at 793-7215. That's 793-7215 for Carpet Masters.
The Inland Empire's radio home for the Dave Ramsey Show.
If you want to mess around with the Bitcoin thing and you're in that world a little bit, that's fine. But don't put your freaking life savings in it, doofus.
KCAAradio.com.
So, you didn't like that opinion, okay? Give us another 15 minutes. This is the station that leaves no listener behind, KCAA.
I'm Aaron Breaker.
And I'm Tobin.
There you go. And
Okay.
we are on the brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. Sorry, sticky button.
So there's a story that kind of got lost in the election shuffle last night that kind of caught me off guard when I got home and saw it. Redlands, in the middle of an election, fired their city manager.
Now, that's huge.
Right? And so he's been on paid admin leave for a month. Apparently, he was accused of sexually harassing their former human resource director, Amy Hagan, and she had threatened to sue the city. And so when her complaint came forward, they put him on paid admin leave, and then he threatened to sue. So the city manager threatened to sue the city, saying that they were discriminating against him because of his age and his ethnicity, right? And so, and I'm sure that was mostly a bargaining ploy, and I'm certain that they came to some sort of agreement. Either way, it cost the city. And we'll hear about this at some point, how much they had to pay to get him off their books. But so he's gone. So the city manager for Redlands, Enrique Martinez, is out. And they've appointed an interim city manager, Janice McConnell, who was Martinez's assistant.
Wow.
Yeah. So interesting. And of course, they did it in the middle of this election where I'm sure they were hoping that no one would notice.
Well, yeah. I mean, you kind of,
Right.
if you're trying to minimize, you can't hide things. You
Yeah.
certainly can't hide something like this. You're trying to minimize the impact in the press. Yeah, it's probably pretty smart to do what they did.
Yeah, because there's a lot of big stories that we're talking about, but we had to make sure we covered that one. I had to get it in there, Aaron.
So where do we go from here? You know, this has been a big election. There really wasn't a blue wave. We haven't talked about the national contest.
Yeah.
And Tobin, maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. The Democrats did take back the House, but not by a large margin. You know, they needed 23 seats to take back the House. They got 26. Okay, so they have a very slim margin to hold the House now. It's a very evenly divided Congress. The Republicans made gains in the Senate. And there were some really big, high-profile races that the Democrats had been leading in the polls all the way up, and then they didn't win them. Yeah.
Well, like Beto O'Rourke or Beto
Yeah.
or whatever he calls himself.
Yeah, and the governor and senator in Florida. I mean, Florida has got to just be vexing for these Democrats who I think thought for sure that they were finally going to take back Florida, right? And the Republicans still managed to hold on. You know.
Now Georgia, the biggest contest in Georgia, is still undecided, and the Democratic challenger, she has not conceded.
Yeah, well, and interesting, you know, in the House races, they would look at California as like the gold mine for them, right? They're going to take all these Republican seats in California. And it really seemed to be kind of a 50-50 proposition on the ones that they targeted.
You know, it's really, the House is interesting because the House was always supposed to be, it's the lower house. The House of Representatives is the lower house of the two houses in Congress, and it's supposed to be representative of the political thoughts and feelings and opinions of the nation.
Yeah.
And it really seems to be that. I mean, that continues to hold true because we are a nation that is pretty much divided in half.
Yeah. And there's still a few of these California congressional seats that are still too close to call. But, you know, about half of them are leaning Republican way, half of them are leaning Democrat way. And so it looks like it's, you know, they're going to pick up seats, but they're not going to pick up all the seats they thought they would get. The one that I thought was interesting was this race with Gil Cisneros versus Young Kim. And so she's the first Korean American, and she won. She clearly won that race. 51% to 48%. And, you know, we haven't heard a lot of talk about this, but, you know, she was a very attractive candidate for that area. And Gil Cisneros had some baggage, right? There had been some legal claims against him and some accusations of impropriety. And so Young Kim was able to rise up and take that seat. And,
so is Nancy Pelosi going to be our Speaker of the House, or do you think the Democrats are going to pick someone new? I mean, she's older than dirt.
I don't see her giving up the power, Aaron. I think she's got this whole legacy thing, you know, that she was the first woman speaker, and that she's going to, you know, add some more years to it. She's got a whole bunch more things she wants to tick off her box, and she loves the battle. She wants to get in there and confound Trump. And I thought her statement last night was really interesting about, you know, we're going to work in a bipartisan way to help lead the country.
No, you're not. You never have. I mean, you're almost she's almost 80 years old, and she's never been bipartisan before.
No, I know. But it was designed to confound Trump, who was hoping that she would announce the impeachment's about to begin. So that
the impeachment's about to
begin. So
begin.
that he could then begin his reelection campaign based on the evil Democrats trying to undo, his rightfully elected presidency.
Yeah.
But she's savvy. She's a savvy politician.
Yeah,
I don't
look
like her,
at her district.
I know.
Her district is a hellhole.
I can't imagine the Democrats prying that gavel out of her hand, though. She's like Charlton Heston, out of my cold dead.
She's holding it above her head, like she's fighting for it.
Right.
So, but it's like Maxine Waters. Her district is a hellhole. It's like you can't even take care of the people in your district.
Yeah.
And you think that you should be running everything.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But I think she probably returns as speaker. I can't imagine that someone's going to knock her off.
So you don't think Ocasio-Cortez would want it? Everybody seems to be anointing her, the darling, when she's just not the sharpest tool in the shed at all.
Yes, I'm not even sure she is a tool. Well,
she's a tool.
She's a tool, but not the kind of tool you keep in a shed, Aaron. That's what I was trying to get at. It's a very different kind of tool.
Yeah. She's now saying, which is, I have to say this, and then we're running short on time. But she says that the people who are specifically asking her how she being Ocasio-Cortez, pay for all of her socialist giveaways, is that she said, well, you don't have the right to ask me that question because you didn't have you didn't ask those questions when giving your tax cuts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, toots, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You now you're in the office. You just were elected, so you'll be sworn in soon, and you have to answer the questions.
Yeah.
So if Jake Tapper, and it was Jake Tapper who was asking, Jake Tapper of CNN.
His tax cuts.
Yeah, his tax cuts. So give me a break. Give me a break. So Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi and all of those people will now be running the House of Representatives. It's actually, yesterday. I didn't want to say who I thought would win because I really had no idea how the House would go. I figured the Senate would stay Republican, but the House, I had no idea. And it's pretty typical for the House to flip in off elections when there's basically one party.
So what's fascinating to me is that I think that the average that they predicted that they would win the House by was about 28 or 29 votes, and they're just shy of that based on the models that they were running. And so... But they're still counting a few, so they may end up hitting that exact number. And I think that would be kind of sweet if the polling for once actually turned out to be right.
So with that, we are at the end of our show. I'm Aaron Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we will see you tomorrow.